Hello, I am the Succubus Scholar, and today I shall be covering the final and most mysterious of the Succubus Queens, the rabbit hole that is Eisheth's Zenunim. And I tell you, listener, what a rabbit hole it is. But very quickly before I start, permit me some shameless self-promotion. My short story, Dancing Mad, is available in the free, yes free, Witch House e-magazine, a tale involving the dangers of communicating with the Lin. Link in the description below. But now, back to our exploration of Eisheth's Zenunim. Before going into this figure, I would firstly note that Eisheth's Zenunim as one of the four queens is a fairly modern concept. In ancient texts it is generally agreed that there are four Succubus queens at any one time, with Lilith ranking over Namah and Igrat, but there seems to be some dispute as to the identity of the fourth. In Kabbalistic texts, the most popular view was that Mahalath, mother of Igrat and rival of Lilith, was the fourth queen. Mahalath has been covered in her own video, so we shall not go into too much depth here, but there have been other entities named beside her. The Sefer Mir Philot, written around the 1500s by Mir Arama, reveals Mahalath's rise before leaving the desert to marry Esau. And know that the Kabbalists have written that the woman from the land of Egypt, whom his mother took for Ishmael, was the daughter of Kasdiel, the Egyptian sorcerer. And when Ishmael divorced her, according to the instructions of his father, Abraham, as it is mentioned in the Peshitta, she was pregnant, and she bore a daughter, and she was Mahalath, daughter of Ishmael. And the mother and the daughter participated in that desert in many sorceries. And a spirit ruled over it, Igratiel by name. And that spirit was attracted to Mahalath, who was very beautiful, until she conceived from him and bore a daughter and called her name Igrat, after the name of the spirit. And thereafter Mahalath became the wife of Esau, and she left the desert. Not so her daughter Igrat, for she and Nama and Lilith and Nagar rule over the four Tekophot. And they said that Lilith fornicates with all men, and Nama only with the Gentiles, and Nagar only with Israel, and Igrat is sent out to do harm on the nights preceding the Sabbaths and Wednesdays. And behold, Lilith is the scant measure that is abomination, which Igrat and Nama carried to the land of Shinar, as Zechariah said. And about this it is said to the fearers of God, neither shall any plague, Nagar, come nigh thy tent. As I have theorised in the video on Mahalath, other texts describe a war between Mahalath and Lilith. Her leaving the desert here suggests Mahalath lost this war, and was exiled back to the mortal realm where she married Esau. In her place, the same text states, arises this Nagar, of which I have found no further information. However, a clue as to this Nagar's nature is in her very name, Nagar meaning plague. All succubi are named in various texts as the cause of various maladies. Perhaps this Nagar was particularly adept at this, bringing various contagions upon her victims and gaining enough power and influence to take Mahalath's place. The same text reveals only the God-fearing are safe from her attacks, as well as her preference for Israelites as her source of seed to engender more demons. Although there is no specific link, the Mishnah Nagaim is a text that describes various maladies and how to purify oneself against them. Perhaps Mir Arama saw Nagar as the embodiment of these. This is the only account I could locate of this Nagar as a demon queen. Either Arama was mistaken, or Nagar did not hold a position for long. Her plagues countered with various cures, and her power waning until another replaced her. In the case of the Tavharets by Shapira, the fourth queen was not Nagar, but another little-known demon named Even-Musket. Know that there are 70 heavenly patrons, one appointed over each nation, and they all are under the rule of Samael and Rahab. Rahab was given as his share all the borders of Egypt, which measures 400 by 400 parsangs. Samael was given 4 kingdoms, and in each of them he has a concubine. The names of his concubine are Lilith, whom he took as his consort, and she is the first one. The second is Naamah, the third Even-Musket, and the fourth Igrat, daughter of Mahalath. And the 4 kingdoms are, first, the kingdom of Damascus, in which is found the house of Rimmon. The second, the kingdom of Tyre, which is opposite the land of Israel. the third the kingdom of Malta, which formerly was called Rhodos, and the fourth the kingdom called Granata, and some say that it is the kingdom of Ishmael. And in each of these 4 kingdoms dwells one of the 4 aforementioned concubines. Again, the same familiar 3 queens are named, Lilith, Nama, Igrat, but who is Even-Musket? Like Nagar, I could find no other text mentioning this entity, this 4th queen proving more and more infuriating to research and seek. There are but 2 hints from this passage as to Even-Musket's nature and influence. The first is that musket is a Hebrew word for ornament or decoration. Alas, this does not reveal a lot to us except she is a beautiful being. But to become one of the queens, there must be more to her than looking pretty. Perhaps the clue lies in the domain allotted to her by Samael, Malta, formerly of Rhodos. Around the time this text was penned, Malta was under the rule of the Knights Hospitaller, an order of monk knights who defended the Christian faith. Before settling in Malta, they were originally based in Rhodes, hence formerly called Rhodos, but after a siege were forced from there by the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire did seek to take Malta also, but were valiantly repulsed by the order after an intense siege. From here on, however, the order would begin to experience some decline due to frivolous spending and, lacking purpose, becoming more a title than an order of warriors. Although very much a supposition, it could be that Shapira is indirectly stating that the demoness, Even-Musket, had some influence upon these knights. Though for what purpose, I could not say at this time. However, if her position was tied to the fate of the order, it could be why she is not mentioned as one of the queens again, her power declining along with the order. When one considers how the Knights Templar were accused of heresy and devil worship, mainly to seize their assets, it is not such a stretch that the Hospitallers might also have had such suspicions around them. So what of Eisheth Zenunim? Why have I not brought her up yet? Well, that is because she is not mentioned as one of the queens anywhere in the Kabbalistic texts. As far as I can find, only Mahalath Nagar and Even-Musket have held this title so far. Indeed, only once is Eisheth Zenunim mentioned, and not in the manner you may expect. Often referenced, though rarely translated, let us look at the Zohar 1.5a. I have taken the translation from Safari.org as I feel this one best conveys the message of the passage for the majority to understand. And on this subject it is written, "Woe to them that draw iniquity with cords of vanity." Iniquity is related to the perverse man, and sin as it were with a cart rope. What is sin? This is the female, namely the wife of harlotry. The gender is implied in the phrase. And sin as it were with a cart rope. He who sins draws iniquity, with these cords of vanity, and afterwards draws sin as it were with a cart rope. That female who is called sin, as she grows strong and flies off to slay human beings. Therefore, she has cast down many deadly wounded. Who has cast down? That sin that slays human beings, and who caused all this? The student of the law, who did not earn the right to teach, but does so anyway. So may the merciful one save us. Rabbi Shimon said to all the friends, I beg of you all not to utter any words of the Torah which you did not hear from a great tree and did not learn properly, so that you may not be the cause of that wife of harlotry slay multitudes of human beings without reason. They all answered, May the merciful one save us all. For me, this is a clear warning that the Torah can become a dangerous weapon should it fall into the wrong hands. The unenlightened would bend or interpret the words to their own ideals or goals, to then impress upon others and convince them that they are in a false heaven or utopia. One needs only look at how holy texts have been used throughout history as such, be it inquisitions, cults, dictatorships, etc., to see the truth of this. What is of interest here particularly is the revelation that these people who do this are playing into the hands of the wife of harlotry, and provide her with the means to bring devastation upon the masses. This section has been translated from Hebrew, that is, Eisheth Zenunim, more commonly translated as woman of harlotry. Although not explicitly stated, it seems clear that this is in reference to Lilith, who is frequently referred to as a harlot or ruler of harlotry in Jewish texts. As the female equivalent of Satan in Judaism, it is only natural that she or Samael is stated here as the puppeteer of those who would use the Torah for evil means. to explore Eisheth's Zenunim further, we must step away from these texts and move on to the more modern but equally esoteric works of the Thelemites. Here, Eisheth's Zenunim would come up again via a short excerpt in S.L. McGregor Mather's Kabbalah Unveiled. The demons are the grossest and most deficient of all forms. Their 10 degrees answer to the decad of the Sephiroth, but in inverse ratio, as darkness and impurity increase with the descent of each degree. The 2 first are nothing but absence of visible form and organisation. The 3rd is the abode of darkness. Next follow 7 hells occupied by those demons which represent incarnate human vices, and torture those who have given themselves up to such vices in earth life. Their prince is Samael, the angel of poison and death. His wife is the harlot, or woman of whoredom, Eisheth Zenunim, and united they are called the beast, Jiva. Thus the infernal trinity is completed, which is, so to speak, the averse and caricature of the supernal creative one. Samael is considered to be identical with Satan. Again, with many Kabbalistic texts identifying Lilith as the harlot and first wife of Samael, then one would be forgiven for assuming that Eisheth's Zenunim is but one of her many titles. But if it is generally agreed that there are 4 queens, and Eisheth's Zenunim is Lilith, then who is the 4th queen? Perhaps a better question would be, at what point did people begin to regard Eisheth's Zenunim as a separate entity? I believe it began when a certain infamous Thelemite took notice of this short passage and explored it further within his own work. Aleister Crowley, the Beast 666, is a man I'm sure requires no introduction. In his work, Liber 777, he details a number of magical tables, providing the structure of the worlds beyond, including the Clipper. Lilith arises here as ruler of the sphere of Gamaliel and wife of Samael, and another Lilith, wife of Asmodeus, supposedly the lesser Lilith, Nama. But so too did Eisheth's Zenunim, highlighted in its Hebrew form here, is noted higher up and would lead modern occultists to see her as residing in the Clipper Satariel. The transcriber of the copy I have notes that this name equates to the same value in Gematria as Kadosh Kadoshim, Holy of Holies, a term frequently used by Thelemites to refer to the womb of their goddess. I came across another paper claiming the sum equals to 154, but 2 less than the number 156, which is the number of the Thelemite goddess again, Babylon, said to reside across the abyss in the Sephirothic sphere of Bina, or the City of Pyramids. Allow me to state here, listener, I am not a fan of Gematria. After studying it somewhat, I came to the conclusion that it is much like statistics. Play with the numbers enough and you can have them interpret whatever you wish them to. I'm sure many of you are familiar with how marketers use this ploy. For example, 2/3 of women buy our product, not mentioning that their sample consisted only of 3 women. So I found it with Gematria. Still, Crowley would expand upon this tablet in his even more famous work, The Vision and the Voice, specifically in The Cry of the Third Ever. The seer prayeth that a cloud may come between him and the sun, so that he may shut out the terror of the vision. And he is afire, he is terribly athirst, and no help can come to him. For the showstone blazeth ever with the fury and the torment and the blackness and the stench of human flesh. The bowels of little children are torn out and thrust into his mouth, and a poison is dropped into his eyes. And Lilith, a black monkey crawling with filth, running with open sores, an eye torn out, eaten of worms, her teeth rotten, her nose eaten away, her mouth a putrid mass of green slime, her dugs dropping and cancerous, clings to him, kisses him. Kill me, kill me. There is a mocking voice. Thou art become immortal. Thou hast looked upon the face of a magician, and thou hast not beheld him, because of his magic veils. Don't torture me. Thus are all they fallen into the power of Lilith, who have dared to look upon his face. The showstone is all black and corrupt. Oh, filth, filth, filth! And this is her great blasphemy, that she have taken the name of the first ever, Lil, and bound it on her brow, and added thereunto the shameless Yod and the Tau of the sign of the cross. She it is that squatteth upon the crucifix for the nastiness of her pleasure, so that they worship Christ, suck up her filth upon their tongues, and therefore their breasts stink. I was saved from that horror by a black, shining triangle, with apex upwards, that came upon the face of the sun. And now the showstone is all clear and beautiful again, the pure, pale gold of a fair maiden's hair, and the green of her girdle, and the deep soft blue of her eyes. The Thelemic view of Lilith is much like the Jewish texts, rarely a positive one. Crowley here is clearly going through a traumatic episode on his journey, beset by vile visions. In the Thelemite book Liber Avarita, Lilith is described as a lovely shape that concealeth a black monkey, even as a figure that draweth with her hand small images of men down into hell. And this vision of her is manifested here, embracing him no doubt in an attempt to drag him down. He then sees a vision of her squatting upon a crucifix and feeding her filth to the masses. Crowley's distaste for Christianity is renowned, and this passage here echoes the Zohar 1.5a we discussed earlier. Only here it is the Bible that is being used rather than the Torah. But surely this only cements Lilith as Eisheth's Zenunim. Well, strangely, Crowley is suddenly saved from the horrifying visions when a sigil appears, followed by a woman of lovely countenance. If one reads the footnotes of this text, we see that Crowley comes to a realisation. This is a sigil of Binah in one of her forms. It instantly destroys the illusion of Lilith, who now appears in her true shape as an avatar, a corporeal imaging of Babylon, recalling the maiden of the ninth Ever. Here also is a mystery of mysteries. Lilith is truly Babylon, as imagined by this energy of Mayan. Lilith, ruler of Gamaliel and bringer of ruin, is an avatar of Babylon of the Sephiric Bina. This echoes the theory explored in another video, where a Sumerian translator saw Lilith as the hand of Inanna, Inanna being one of the names of Babylon. So it is here we have our separate, albeit linked, identities. Many practitioners believe, picked up mainly from this no doubt, that Eisheth's Zenunim is Babylon, that the woman of harlotry was in reference to another harlot goddess. Considering Jewish Mesopotamian relations in ancient history, it would be unsurprising if this Sumerian goddess became demonized and perhaps even split as the evil Lilith and holy Matronit, and are here revealed as two sides of the same coin. So we have our current four queens, Lilith, Naamah, Igrat and Babylon? Well, if so, then we have a new problem. Babylon is said to reside in Bina, not in the Klippot Satariel. That Eisheth's Zenunim is Babylon has been hinted to us via Gematria, via the hand of Inanna or Lilith as an avatar, and even if we look at Satariel meaning concealed ones, fitting for one often referred to as mystery of mysteries, perhaps explaining the mysterious nature of Eisheth's Zenunim. Still, how can she reside in the Klippot? This is still something of an ongoing debate. Some say that once one crosses the abyss to the final three spheres, there is little distinction between the two. Hence she resides in both. With Satariel being the shadow of Bina, so Eisheth's Zenunim is Babylon in her shadow form. I've seen others look to the treatise of the left emanation by the Cohen brothers for an explanation, a treatise discussed in the video on Lilith's origins. Here there are two Liliths described, the younger Lilith, whom they claim is the Lilith we know most famously today, and the matron Lilith, who they say is the primordial Babylon. Hence Eisheth's Zenunim is the oldest and in fact greater of the four queens. My opinion, listener? If you wish to know more about Babylon, I highly recommend Peter Gray's Scarlet Goddess. He does an excellent job of beautifully revealing Babylon's wisdom and influence. And he also, all too briefly, states that he considers Lilith and Babylon to be very different entities. I am of the same opinion. Lilith to me is her own agent, not beholden to some greater entity, and certainly not of lesser rank. She is unbridled lust to the extreme, a source of great but dangerous power. Babylon is also extremely potent, but of a different energy, though admittedly it can be hard to tell the difference to those inexperienced with the nuances of either. As for the Cohen explanation, I have already stated that I believe the matron Lilith is the Lilith we know, and the younger Lilith is the lesser Lilith, Princess Naamah, mentioned in other texts. I would of course stress that these are my own views, and I hope to do a separate video giving what I believe are the differences between Babylon and Lilith. But you are entitled to your own view, listener, just as Crowley was to his own. Is Babylon the fourth queen? Honestly, I doubt this, but if not her, then who? There is another possibility that no one seems to have considered. Currently, it is a triad of queens, and the term Eisheth Zenunim is a title of office yet to be filled. Samael may still be waiting for a woman to gain his attention and prove worthy of the role. Who knows, listener, it could even be you if you meet the traits desirable to those of the infernal courts. Gain enough influence, arcane skill, and Samael's favour, and it may be you to hold the title as one of the four. Thank you for listening. Honestly, I could have probably gone further into this, citing not only further Thelemic sources, but other even more modern works being produced today. But I feel I've encapsulated the confusing mystery that is the fourth Succubus queen here nicely. With this, I intend to take a break from researching the queens and start providing other areas of succubi lore, so watch out for that. And oh yes, again permit me some shameless self-promotion, I have a short story, Dancing Mad, available in a free e-magazine, Witch House Magazine. Link to it is in the description below. Give it a try and let me know what you think. It involves one of the entities I've covered on my channel. Thank you so much again. It gives me great pleasure to bring these to you. The lore behind succubi is criminally secretive and little known, smothered by the lukewarm mass media perceptions of these incredibly deep and complex entities. I hope to unveil much, much more of this world to you. But until next time, may Lilith bring you pleasant dreams.